Hey, good evening. Um, so I'm laying here on my bed with this recording microphone, and I feel like a dork. So I'm going to tell you a story about me, and I think how it relates. And I feel like I have to give you some backstory to kind of understand where the story comes from. Um, so I was married for 18 years and very lonely for most of the second half of that. I had kids. I had good job. But like I said, I was very lonely. And I'm going to try to keep this part of the story kind of short to the point, but give you enough information that you understand where I'm coming from. But so what happened was a couple years before I got divorced, I had gone to a funeral at the high school I grew up going to. And it's about an hour from Boise, and it's a really small school. And it just looked horrible. Looked like there's weeds and, things needed painting. And so I called a couple friends and said we should do something for the school. Like, what can we do to help as alumni? So it came that the idea came that we would have a dinner auction. And so for 6 months, I organized this dinner auction, and we raised a decent amount of money, about $14,000. And during this whole time, my ex-wife was always complaining that there just wasn't enough money. And, I worked for the state of Idaho. I worked for Idaho State University. I managed a department. And, we were just regular middle-class people, but, there's always more and more and more. So after all this happened, so anytime there was something that happened in our, financially in our marriage, she would complain. If we had to pay like an extra something, then we would, would put off paying something else to make up for what we had paid earlier. So there was a time when my ex-wife was a fitness instructor, and she would fly all over the country. And sometimes she would tell me that she needed money for a hotel or something, and then she would get reimbursed. And so those are a lot of the issues that we dealt with financially, because I would all of a sudden have to come up with, an extra $500 or whatever for her to go on a trip. And so she went on a trip, and she said she needed some money. And so I had access to this $14,000. It was in an account in my name because we hadn't set up a group, an organization yet. And so I decided I'll give her money out of this account, and then she can pay me back when she gets reimbursed. And it just, like, at that point, our lives just went nuts, and there were lots of problems and financial. And so I kept just taking a little bit out of that account here and there, thinking I'll just pay it back. The problem was I didn't. And so after about a year, I'd spent all the money. It's not doing anything on purpose. And it wasn't like a trip. It wasn't a new car. It was a new set of tires. It was just stuff like that. And it went really quick. Anyway, so long story short, I told my best friend, who was part of this group that we had organized. He told somebody who called the cops. And I found out my ex-wife was cheating. I got called from a detective within a week of these two things happening. And I called an attorney. He said, you got about a year. It takes them a while to research this stuff. Just get it paid back. So after 2 months of finding out she was cheating, I left. And about 2 months later, I was arrested. So we weren't even divorced. And so here I am now, newly divorced, and have a felony potential charge against me. And I was devastated. I was happy to be out of the marriage, but didn't feel real good about who I was. Some of that was from the arrest, but a lot of it was from being lonely in a marriage where you wanted somebody to love you and they didn't. And so here I am now, single, and hiding this legal situation from most of my friends or people I knew. My family didn't even know, my siblings and parents. So after a year of going through different court things, I pled guilty. I had the worst judge in the state of Idaho. He sentenced me to 2 years in prison. I got a 3-month rider and got out, and was very depressed and couldn't find a job, wasn't looking for a job real hard because I was really suffering with just how I was feeling about myself. And so my probation officer found out I wasn't paying my fees, so she filed. I'm trying to remember. My brain just shut down just now. Basically, she took me back into custody and violated my probation. That's what it was. So I had to go do another 3 months, and the judge had threatened that he would probably just send me to prison. And I'm a really nice person, but I was emotionally a disaster. So I learned a lot about myself in that process. That's when I started writing, and I kind of went through a life-changing experience by writing, actually. My first book was a story about a guy who goes to England on vacation, and he finds a clue to a treasure. And it was a story idea I had in my head for 12, 15 years, but I kind of knew the basic idea of the concept of the story, but I didn't know the detail that I would get into. And so here I'm writing this story, but I'm writing emotionally about myself. And that was probably as impactful for me on an emotional level as anything. So I get out and I've got a job, and I'm feeling much better about myself because I'm kind of learning that you have to love yourself before you can find someone else that will love you, or that you can, like, I needed to love me before I would find someone who could love me and I would accept that. So that was 7 years ago. And so life has been great since then. With the exception of 2 relationships that were like both 6 months long, and both of them really were me 8 years ago. And they didn't trust that I was, they thought I was the nicest guy they'd ever met, but they were used to guys treating them like shit. And I remember one of them specifically was like, when are you going to yell at me? And I'm like, that's not me. I'm not that kind of guy. So I would say in the last year, I have taken a few steps backwards. And I don't mean legally, I mean emotionally. Like when you have 2 people who choose to say, I would prefer to not be with someone rather than be with you, it's normally not a good thing to go through. And even though I knew that it wasn't me, had nothing to do with me, it was about them and where they were at in their life, it's still hard to accept that. And so I really have found myself over the last year struggling with, like, I haven't been on a date in probably, it's probably been about a year. And not that that means anything, because when I first got out of, when I came out of counseling, and after I had come out of the second 3-month stint I did, I didn't really date then either, because I was really happy and I was writing, and I felt like that was giving me this identity that I had been looking for, that I finally found Kevin in this writing, and it wasn't Kevin that's going to have this scarlet letter on them. But I would say, so about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I ruptured a disc in my back at work. And so last summer I spent a lot of time on my back. I actually it was at work, and so I had workman's comp, and so I was staying with some friends, and it was great. And then I got better, and then work picked up. We get pretty busy from now until right before Christmas, so it was really busy. Then the snow hit, and then the spring came, and then there's just my boss and myself and a girl that runs our office. and we've been swamped. And so my entire summer has been spent going to work, getting off work, trying to go on a bike ride or go for a hike in the foothills, and then riding in the evenings. And that has been a repeat thing that just happens. It's like Groundhog Day. It's something that I just do every day. And I found that as I've done that, I feel like I've got out of shape, and that affects me. And so you don't want to go out. You don't want to look for someone to go out with because you don't feel like you're attractive enough. And so it just kind of like, it's this vicious cycle. And so what I found that I need to do with myself is to force myself to get out, because what I end up doing is I've got 2 people who I see every day at work, and that's it. I don't really have any friends. I think when I got divorced, most of my friends that were married kind of disappeared. And I'm not some guy that needs a bunch of guys to go paintballing with. That seems kind of weird to me. So I don't really have a lot of guy friends because I don't, I think I'm just a little different that way. I don't need that reinforcement. But how this relates to you, I think, is that I find myself trying to fix all of my problems alone. And I don't really let people in. Because, you don't want to be judged by people, which I feel like hasn't really happened. Most people are pretty understanding. And I think when people get to know me and meet me, they're like, yeah, I would have no problems trusting you with anything. That whatever legally happened isn't a big deal. But I find myself like just not really letting people in because it's safer. I don't have to get hurt. I don't have to have somebody tell me that, oh, Kevin, I love you, but my choice is to not see you anymore. And so it becomes very easy to do that. And then plus, the more you get away and stay away from people, the easier it is to keep staying away from people. And so I understand where you're at. I'm kind of there now, I'll be honest. I write maybe more romantic thoughts in those little posts I put on Facebook because that's what I want in someone. But the irony in it is that that's what I want in someone, but I really am not putting myself in a position to find and to do that. So I'm a little hypocritical for that. I would say the other part with me, and how what I try to do to help or to be involved in however you would let me or want me to be. I love helping people, and I think there's part of me that, whether it's because of what I did legally, I feel it's an obligation, and I love it, is to help people. I know where I've been, and there have been some people who have reached out to me and have supported me through various processes. There's a girl that I know that is just a great friend whom really supported me through getting the first book finished. And had she not been there to keep pushing and asking questions and, hey, how's that coming? And what can I do to help you with it? I don't know if I would ever finished it. So there are people who have extended themselves to me that have made a big difference to me, because I typically don't, like, oh no, I'm good. I don't need your help. Oh, I don't need this. I don't need this. So I understand where you're coming from. But I find myself in a position where I'm not married. My kids are all older. I don't really have any debt. So I work a lot. I write a lot. And I find myself like I'm in a position to offer help and support, but really only if you're willing to accept it. But the way I look at things is I don't I would never offer something to you with any expectation of any kind of repayment in any form whatsoever. I do it strictly because I know what it feels like to be on the verge of feeling like you have something great inside of you that you can do. But if you just had a couple extra little things that could maybe help push you over that edge, and I would be more than happy to offer whatever I can help you with. So like I said, I work for a production company. We have, so I'm not a computer guy at all, but what happened was I bought a laptop about 8 years ago, and it's what I used. And then, me and a business partner, we did a Comic-Con in Boise about 3 years ago. And right before that, I bought another laptop because I just needed something with a little more juice to it. So I had one that was a little bit older, but it worked great. And then I bought a new one. And then earlier this year, we were getting ready to go to Montana to do a show. And like 3 days before we were to leave, my laptop died. So I went to a pawn shop and I bought another one. So I used that. So that's what I've been using since then. But what I noticed when I went over to the pawn shop is they have great deals, and maybe there's just something missing. Like maybe they don't have a power cord, which, you know, the laptop's $50, but if you get a power cord, all of a sudden, you know, it's a great deal. So I've acquired 3 additional laptops since Montana. And so I have one that I've installed. I bought the new Microsoft Office this year. It's got Word and everything on it. And I've installed that onto the computer. I've installed Audacity, which is the program I'm using actually to record this. It's a audio recording software. I use it to record books, or I was doing a podcast last year for a while. And then like I was telling you, I also put in on GIMP. So there's a laptop I have that I want you to have. I don't know if it'll help you. I don't know if it will do you any good, but it's doing me no good because it's just sitting on a desk. And I would rather allow someone else that has a lot of potential to take advantage of it and use it than for it to just sit here. I probably bought it thinking that I would just give it away anyway. So I would love for you to do that. I did buy the website for you. It was like $12. So it's not even a deal. I would be happy to help. I think I put on it a month. I think there was a free month of web, like a website builder on it. But for my website, which I'm still trying to update as we speak, it's like $10 a month to host it and to build a website. So if that's something I can do to help you in that way, or a camera, like I said, I'm a great shopper. This is going to sound really weird. I'm a great shopper. I look for great deals, and I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing a wedding in November. I had a girl who I knew 8 years ago who was one of the best wedding photographers in town, and she let me just go to help her. I was her second camera, and so she did pretty high-end weddings, and what she would do is let me shoot whatever I wanted, and then during like the ceremonies, then she would say, I need you to stand here, and this is what I want you to shoot. But for the rest of the wedding, she would let me just kind of do my own thing and take my own pictures. So that's what I was talking about, the wedding in November. Sorry, this is now 20 minutes long almost. So basically all I was trying to get across is that I understand where you're at. I'm there myself. The only difference, and maybe there's no difference, but I know I'm there, and you do too. You write it, you talk about it, you post it. So, but I probably force myself out of that bubble. And maybe that's easy to do because I, have a car. I did get both of my bicycles stolen off of the back of my Suburban a week or 2 weeks ago. Which really pissed me off. But when I first got out of jail, my attorney, I signed over my BMW. I had a used BMW, signed it over to him as payment, and I didn't have a car for, 3 years. And I drove around this ugly white child molester looking ice cream van looking thing from work. It's just this ugly Ford Econoline little, it's just hideous. But that's what I could drive. That's what was available. And so I know what it feels like to kind of feel like you're stuck. So anyway, I'm going to shut up now, but take this into consideration. I really am a nice person, and when I offer something to someone, there's nothing attached to it. There's no expectations. There's nothing. I just want. I think it makes me feel like a better person to help and to reach out to people that maybe could use help that I might be able to provide. It makes me feel like a better person, and that it would probably help me more than it would help you, to be honest. So anyway, I hope this makes sense. Like I said, I'm not rich, but I do okay financially with the company I work for. And like I said, I don't have any debt, so I have certain things I got to pay, like a phone bill, and I have a storage unit, and just basic things like that. But I do have a little extra. So if you ever need something, if you ever are stuck, like I don't know, you said your phone is off, so I don't know if that's a thing where you just need to pay it. If I can help pay that, let me know. I would certainly be happy to do that. So anyway, I'm going to shut up now. Let me know what your thoughts are. Like I said, I can get you a camera. I've got a laptop for you. It's got a carry bag. And I can load anything you want. My office is down on the corner of Chinden and Orchard. It's kitty corner from the Ranch Club, and there's the pawn shop across the street, and 2 questionable hotels on each side of us. So it's a great part of town. But I do spend a lot of time after hours here writing. It's great internet, and it's quiet, and so I use it as kind of an office space for myself after hours. So all right, well, I'm going to be quiet. I've said that now about 4 times, though. If I can help in any way, please let me, because I would be happy to do that. It would be my pleasure. So have a great night, and maybe we'll talk soon.